The party was supposed to be the highlight of Madison Parker's sophomore year at Riverside University. It was Halloween night 2023, and the 19-year-old psychology major had spent weeks planning her costume and looking forward to celebrating with friends. But what started as a night of fun would become the beginning of one of the most disturbing campus murder cases in the university's 150-year history. Madison was known for her infectious smile and dedication to her studies. She was working toward her dream of becoming a child psychologist and had maintained a 3.8 GPA while also working part-time at the campus bookstore. Her roommate Sarah described her as responsible and cautious, someone who always texted her location and never walked alone at night. The Halloween party was being held at a house just off campus, hosted by members of the Sigma Chi fraternity. Madison had been excited about the event for weeks, carefully planning her costume as a witch and coordinating with her friend group to attend together. Security cameras from multiple locations tracked her movements that evening as she made her way to the party around 9 p.m. Madison was last seen alive at 11:47 p.m., captured on a Ring doorbell camera leaving the party house. She appeared to be alone and was walking toward the campus parking lot where her car was parked. She never made it to her vehicle. When Madison failed to return to her dorm room and missed her Saturday morning shift at the bookstore, her roommate Sarah knew something was terribly wrong. The last text message Madison sent was to Sarah at 11:32 p.m. saying, "Leaving soon, see you tomorrow." But Madison Parker would never make it home. Her disappearance would expose dark secrets within the university community and reveal that the person responsible for her death was someone she trusted completely. Madison's roommate Sarah called campus security when Madison didn't return to their dorm room by Saturday afternoon. This wasn't like Madison at all. She was extremely responsible and always kept in touch with her friends and family. When campus security found Madison's car still parked in the lot near the party house, they immediately escalated the case to the local police department. Detective Lisa Chen was assigned to lead the investigation. She had worked missing person cases before, but something about Madison's disappearance felt different from the start. All of Madison's personal belongings were still in her car: her purse, her phone charger, even her house keys. Only her phone was missing, and it had been turned off since 11:55 p.m. on Friday night. The investigation began with interviewing everyone who had attended the Halloween party. Over 200 students were present that night, and most reported seeing Madison throughout the evening, but accounts of her final hours varied dramatically. Some witnesses said she seemed upset and was arguing with someone near the end of the party, while others claimed she appeared happy and was planning to head home. The party hosts, fraternity brothers Jake Morrison and Tyler Reed, told police that Madison had been drinking but didn't seem intoxicated when she left. They claimed they offered to call her an Uber or have someone walk her to her car, but she insisted she was fine to drive. Security footage from the party house confirmed Madison had only consumed 2 beers over the course of 3 hours. Campus security launched a massive search effort involving hundreds of volunteers. Students, faculty, and community members combed through every building, wooded area, and parking lot on campus. Search dogs were brought in to follow Madison's scent, which led from the party house toward the parking lot, but then mysteriously disappeared near a storm drain. For 5 agonizing days, the university community held its breath hoping for Madison's safe return. Candlelight vigils were held nightly, and social media campaigns spread her photo across the country. But as the hours turned into days with no contact, everyone feared the worst. On November 3rd, 2023, a maintenance worker named Carlos Rodriguez was cleaning debris from a storm drainage system about 2 miles from campus when he made a horrific discovery. Partially concealed under fallen leaves and construction materials, Carlos found Madison Parker's decomposed body. The 5-day search was over, but now police had a murder investigation on their hands. The location where Madison's body was found was significant. It was in a remote area that wasn't easily accessible to the general public. Someone would have needed specific knowledge of the drainage system and access to industrial areas of the city to dispose of a body there. This suggested the killer was either a local resident with extensive knowledge of the area or someone who worked in construction or city maintenance. The medical examiner's preliminary findings revealed that Madison had been strangled. There were ligature marks around her neck consistent with a rope or cord, and she had defensive wounds on her hands and arms, indicating she had fought desperately for her life. The medical examiner estimated that Madison had been killed within hours of leaving the party. What puzzled investigators was how Madison's body had ended up so far from where she was last seen. The drainage area was approximately 2 miles from the party house, and there was no evidence that Madison had walked there voluntarily. Her car was still in the parking lot near the party, and witnesses confirmed she had been heading toward her vehicle when she left. Detective Chen began working on the theory that Madison had been abducted from the parking lot, murdered elsewhere, and then transported to the drainage area. This meant the killer had to have a vehicle large enough to transport a body and knowledge of the remote location where Madison was found. The discovery of Madison's body sent shockwaves through Riverside University. The campus, which had always prided itself on being safe and secure, was now the site of a brutal murder. Parents began pulling their children out of school, and enrollment applications dropped dramatically as news of the case spread nationwide. With Madison's death now confirmed as a homicide, Detective Chen expanded the investigation to include anyone who had access to both the university area and the remote location where the body was found. The list of potential suspects was surprisingly short, and one name kept appearing in witness statements from the party: Professor David Kim from the psychology department. Professor Kim had been Madison's academic advisor and had developed what many students described as an inappropriate interest in her academic and personal life. Madison had been taking his advanced psychology course and had mentioned to friends that Professor Kim often kept her after class for private discussions that made her uncomfortable. Several students came forward to report that Professor Kim had been asking detailed questions about Madison's schedule, her work hours, and her social activities. One student, Jessica Martinez, told police that Madison had confided in her just 2 weeks before her death, saying that Professor Kim had been sending her inappropriate text messages and had suggested they meet privately off campus. Professor Kim initially denied having any contact with Madison outside of normal academic interactions. However, phone records revealed that he had been texting Madison frequently, sometimes late at night, and had called her 3 times on the evening she disappeared. The last call was made at 11:41 p.m., just 6 minutes before Madison sent her final text message to her roommate. When detectives searched Professor Kim's office and home, they found disturbing evidence of his obsession with Madison. Hidden in his desk drawer were printed copies of Madison's social media photos, copies of her academic records, and handwritten notes detailing her daily schedule and routines. Professor Kim's alibi for the night of the murder was weak. He claimed to be home alone grading papers, but his neighbors reported seeing his car leave his driveway around 11 p.m. and return after 2 a.m. More damaging was the discovery that Professor Kim had worked as a city planning consultant 5 years earlier and had extensive knowledge of the drainage system where Madison's body was found. The breakthrough in the case came when forensic technicians found Madison's missing cell phone hidden in Professor Kim's office filing cabinet. The phone had been wiped clean, but digital forensics experts were able to recover deleted text messages that painted a disturbing picture of Kim's escalating harassment and Madison's growing fear. The recovered messages showed that Professor Kim had been pressuring Madison to meet him privately, claiming he had important information about her academic future. Madison had repeatedly declined these invitations, and had even mentioned to Kim that his behavior was making her uncomfortable, and that she was considering reporting him to the university administration. The final text exchange between Madison and Professor Kim occurred at 11:38 p.m. on the night she disappeared. Kim had sent Madison a message claiming there was an emergency involving her academic scholarship, and that she needed to meet him immediately at his car in the parking lot. Madison's response was brief: "This is inappropriate. I'm going home and will contact the dean on Monday." Security footage from the parking lot was grainy and partially obstructed, but investigators could make out a figure approaching Madison's car around the time she would have arrived. The figure appeared to be male and was wearing dark clothing consistent with what witnesses reported seeing Professor Kim wear to the Halloween party earlier that evening. Forensic evidence from Professor Kim's vehicle provided the final pieces of the puzzle. Despite attempts to clean the car, trace amounts of Madison's DNA were found in the trunk, along with fibers from her Halloween costume. A rope found in Kim's garage was consistent with the ligature marks found on Madison's neck. When confronted with this overwhelming evidence, Professor Kim's story began to fall apart. Under intense interrogation, he finally admitted to following Madison to the parking lot that night, claiming he only wanted to talk to her about her academic concerns. However, investigators believed the encounter was planned, and that Kim had been stalking Madison for weeks, leading up to her murder. Professor David Kim was arrested on November 8, 2023, and charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and stalking. The arrest sent shockwaves through the academic community, as Kim had been a respected faculty member for over 8 years with no previous criminal record. The university immediately placed Kim on administrative leave and launched an internal investigation into whether there had been other instances of inappropriate behavior that were not reported or not properly addressed. The investigation revealed that 2 other female students had filed complaints about Kim's behavior in previous years, but both complaints had been dismissed as misunderstandings. Kim's trial began in March 2024. The prosecution argued that Kim had become obsessed with Madison and had planned her murder when she threatened to report his harassment to university officials. They painted a picture of a predator who had abused his position of authority to target vulnerable students. The evidence against Kim was overwhelming. His cell phone records, the recovered text messages, the forensic evidence from his car, and his knowledge of the location where Madison's body was found all pointed to his guilt. Most damaging was testimony from other students who described Kim's inappropriate interest in Madison and his increasingly erratic behavior in the weeks leading up to her death. Kim's defense team argued that the encounter in the parking lot was coincidental, and that Kim had acted in self-defense when Madison became aggressive. They claimed the prosecution's case was built on circumstantial evidence and that Kim was being unfairly targeted because of his position at the university. However, the jury wasn't convinced by the defense arguments. After deliberating for less than 6 hours, they returned a verdict of guilty on all charges. Madison's family wept as the verdict was read, finally getting justice for their beloved daughter. Professor David Kim was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In a statement read by his attorney, Kim expressed remorse for his actions but maintained that Madison's death was not premeditated. 8 months after Madison Parker's murder, Riverside University has implemented comprehensive reforms to prevent similar tragedies. The university created new policies requiring all faculty-student interactions to be documented, established anonymous reporting systems for harassment, and mandated annual training on appropriate professional boundaries. Madison's family established the Madison Parker Foundation, which provides education about recognizing and reporting harassment in academic settings. The foundation has already helped dozens of students who found themselves in situations similar to what Madison experienced before her death. Her parents, Robert and Linda Parker, speak regularly at universities across the country about the warning signs of predatory behavior and the importance of taking student complaints seriously. They emphasize that Madison did everything right. She documented Kim's inappropriate behavior, confided in friends, and was planning to report him to university officials. The case highlighted serious flaws in how universities handle harassment complaints and the power imbalance that exists between faculty and students. Many experts pointed out that Madison's murder could have been prevented if the university had taken previous complaints about Kim's behavior more seriously. Madison's roommate Sarah transferred to another university after the fall semester, saying she couldn't bear to walk past the places where she and Madison had shared so many memories. She keeps Madison's memory alive by volunteering with the foundation and speaking to student groups about recognizing dangerous situations. Professor David Kim remains in prison, serving his life sentence. He has never provided a full explanation for why he killed Madison, and many questions about his motives remain unanswered. What is clear is that Madison Parker was a bright young woman whose life was cut short by someone who should have been protecting and guiding her. Madison was just 19 years old when she was murdered by a trusted faculty member who couldn't accept rejection. Her story serves as a tragic reminder that predators can hide behind positions of authority, and that we must create safe systems for reporting harassment before it escalates to violence.